Welcome back to Midday. Okay, if you're one of the 143 million people affected by the recent Equifax data breach and you've decided to take action to try to protect your information, the Federal Trade Commission says freezing your credit or maybe signing up for fraud alerts, two ways to do this. But what does it all mean? What actions do those have? Erin Dufner is here with the Better Business Bureau to explain more about both of these things and how they affect you. Great to have you back with us.
Good to see you.
This is a big deal. A lot of people affected by this. As we mentioned, more than 140 million. Let's start with a freeze, a credit freeze. What exactly does this entail?
Well, I think that it's important for people to understand that just because there was a data breach doesn't mean that you are necessarily definitely 100% going to be the victim of identity theft. So we want to make sure that people don't necessarily go overboard because, for example, with a credit freeze, what that means is that nobody, including you, the consumer, the person, can take out any kind of line of credit on a credit freeze. It's permanent. It can cost a few dollars, maybe $10, but it's there until you take it off, and it could take several days. So consider if you're purchasing a new home, if you're looking at a car, anything that requires any kind of credit, you have to think about those things because right now everything's in the news. It's on top of mind for everybody, but 3 years, 5 years down the road, you may not remember, and then you really could put yourself in a bind. So it's just important to know that because it was hacked doesn't necessarily mean that all of your information is going to be used by scammers.
That's a great point, and that brings us to the fraud alert, something that you would be able to instill on your credit to let you know if something goes a little bit haywire there. Is that a good idea, do you think?
Absolutely, and you might really consider starting there because a fraud alert, it's something temporary. It's about 90 days, and it's something that you can do that's going to expire. You do have to remember to continue to update it, but you know, and really what that does is that requires anybody who's going to issue new credit to go through a few additional steps to verify your identity. You know, whether it's extra information, maybe some tax documents to really verify who you are. But again, it's very different than a freeze because in a fraud alert, you're going to get more information. If somebody's trying to open credit on your account, you may get something in the mail. So you just have to be careful that you don't necessarily overreact. And again, checking your credit report at annualcreditreport.com is something that is free. It's something that everybody can do, and you might just consider going in there, printing out everything right now so you have that fresh, clean start. And even if you have to pay a couple of dollars, you know, maybe every quarter, for example, you can still be getting all of that information, and it's not going to cost you that much, but you can still take out credit if you need it, rather than waiting if you go, you know, overboard with that credit freeze.
It's better to keep an eye on it now before something happens.
That's
Erin,
right.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Great tips as always.
Good to see you, Brian.